All right, like I said in the first video, that this video really should be called Dr. Haefeli's Term Paper Pet Peeves. These are writing tips, but also tips on things that just really kind of drive me crazy. So you're not going to do them in your research paper. The first one that I wanted to talk about is just do not open with a grand statement like Mozart is the best composer of all time, or music is a universal language. That one is just one of my biggest pet peeves. Music is indeed a universal phenomenon, but it's not a language, it's a sign system. Remember talking about that at the beginning of the semester. Don't open with a dictionary definition, and please don't open with biography. It's so boring. Open with an assertion, something exciting, a quote, something controversial. Really catch my eye as a reader with that opening sentence. All right, thesis statement needs to introduce the content of the rest of the paper as well as the structure of the rest of the paper. And some of you have been taught that it doesn't matter where your thesis statement is, but I really want that thesis statement to close your opening paragraph. If your introduction needs to be 2 paragraphs long, that's fine, but that thesis statement better be the closing sentence of that introduction. That's just how research papers are usually structured. That's a pretty boring one. Let's look at this one. So this is a super typical research paper kind of thesis statement. The life of the typical college student is characterized by time spent studying, attending class, and socializing with peers. So not only does this tell me what the rest of the paper is going to be about, but it also tells me that the first section of the paper is going to be about studying, attending, and then the second part, attending class. Third part, socializing with peers. All right, you don't need another example. We're good. All right, here's another. This is one of my favorites. Passive voice. Passive voice drives me crazy in a research paper. A lot of people think it sounds academic, right? Decisions were made. It sounds fancy, but what it actually does is it's weak and it's vague. So want to make sure that your writing is as strong and as direct as possible. And I love this tweet from this English teacher about, she teaches that if you can insert by zombies after the verb, then you have passive voice. So give your writing a test there. Let's see if I can mark this up. I don't know why I can't. Oh well. All right, so here's a nice passive voice sentence. There is a considerable range of expertise demonstrated by zombies, right? Who is demonstrating the expertise? The spam senders. So just make the actor active in the sentence. The spam senders demonstrate a considerable range of expertise. It was determined by the committee that the report was inconclusive. Who was determining? It's not zombies, right? It's the committee. So the committee determined that the report was inconclusive. Here's one that might show up in a paper. Minor keys, modal movement, and arpeggios are shared by both musical traditions. What is the actor in this one? It's a little bit vague, but it's the musical traditions are sharing, right? Both share minor keys, modal movement, and arpeggios. Now, here's one. The function of the non-tonic recapitulation will be examined by zombies in this paper. All right, so who's active? It really isn't the paper. It's really you as the person that's examining. But so you don't want to say this paper will examine, because that's awkward. And you could say I will examine in this paper, but that's not very elegant. So what you need to do is actually just be more specific about what you're going to say. Reword that whole sentence altogether. Make an assertion. Schumann sometimes wrote non-tonic recapitulations in order to alter the standard sonata form. So I rewrote that entire sentence to make the reader know that this paper is going to be about non-tonic recapitulations and Schumann. All right, term paper tip number 2. Hold on, I want to see if I can mark this up. I don't know how I can. Oh, I did it in my test drive. Let me see something here. Sorry, folks. You guys are like, yeah, how is this going to work when our professors can't even, oh, I got it to work, I think. All right. Here's another one that was really important. Periods and commas always go inside quotation marks, even inside single quotation marks. So look at this example. The sign changed from walk to don't walk to walk again within 30 seconds, and she said, hurry up. All of this punctuation is inside the quotation marks. Do it, always. And then let's look at the next example. Here's an example with a footnote. This is super important. So many people don't put the period, the quotation marks, and the footnote number in the right place. So make sure you're paying attention to this format. Period, quotation marks, footnote number. All right, musical examples. Bad musical examples are a pet peeve, but I love a good musical example in a paper. So let me point out in this example what's really great about the example. First of all, this writer, I'm sorry you don't get the beginning of the sentence here, blah, 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 blah. But notice how the author really points out to the reader where to look, right? Gives a cue to the reader. Hey, look here at example number 2. And then tells the reader exactly what to read for here, what we're supposed to be looking at. Notice that the example is labeled beautifully and that we have all the information we need here to understand this example. It's clearly for piano because of the grand staff. We've got a key, we've got a time signature, we've got a tempo marking. It's great. All right, next one. I didn't even bother to give you the verbiage here at the beginning that kind of, introduces this example, but it's missing a label, it's missing clefs, it's missing instrumentation. I have no idea how to interpret this musical example because it's just disembodied. So like the zombies with the passive voice, this is a disembodied musical example. Just don't do it. All right. Let's talk about citing sources. Some just big considerations here. Let's just go ahead and use footnotes for the papers. I think they're easier to read. They're more convenient for the reader for sure. So some big overarching ideas about the difference between footnotes and notes in your bibliography. So in a footnote, look at the author's name. It's always going to be the normal way. First name first, last name. But in the bibliography, it's going to be turned around. Last name first and then first name. And this is Irvine style, so don't pay attention to these page numbers here. You're going to use Chicago style that's in the writing and music book. But notice that that punctuation in the footnote is like it's one big sentence that ends with a period, with commas, right? But in the bibliography, it's not like a sentence. All these discrete elements are closed off with periods. So footnote, like a sentence with a period at the end. Bibliography, periods throughout. You're going to take a look in detail at that chapter. All right, another thing that's super important. What about titles? Titles for things that are large and are made up of a lot of different parts are written in italics. So like books have chapters, journals contain articles, operas contain arias. The small parts of those things are in quotation marks. All right. In your endnotes in the footnotes, we're just going to go through and just change this throughout. The footnotes, the first time you reference something, you're going to have all of the information, the author's name, the name of the article, the journal, blah, 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 all that stuff, or the book, the publisher, the place, all that stuff. The second references, you're going to shorten that up. And you're going to see how to do that in the last chapter of the writing and music book. Some of you may have been taught to use ibid when you have repeating references, but in the new Chicago style, there's no more ibid, so you just continue to use the short references. All right, you don't need to look at this formatting because you have that in the writing and music book. All right, editing. We have this guy right here because editing is hard work. It's a lot of work. What you really need to make sure you do is that you take time, that you've written your paper with enough time to set it aside, get away from it for a little bit, go back to it, and read it with fresh eyes. I like reading my writing out loud because my ear finds mistakes as well as my eye, and sometimes my tongue just trips over the awkward spots, so I know I need to rewrite those if I can't read them out loud very clearly. And then have your friends, people in your group, to edit your paper. Friends are a great source. And friends, you gotta be direct and clear. And even though it might feel mean to point out the mistakes, it's not mean at all. Your friends will benefit from your close editing. As you're editing, evaluate the outline. Does every paragraph support the thesis? Does every paragraph have one clear subject? Could you reverse outline your paper, and does it make sense? Cut out anything extraneous. These papers are so short and you really want to go in depth in a topic. So any kind of fluff, take it out. Those verbs, or not verbs, the intensifiers like incredibly, very, take those things out, right? So look at it on a word level, and then look at it at a kind of larger sentence paragraph level. If there's stuff that's not supporting your thesis statement, really cut it out. All right, like I said in the other introduction, or the other video, you're going to rewrite your introduction after you write your paper. You're also going to evaluate your paper using the rubric. In addition to the book, this Purdue OWL site is a great resource. And don't forget the Writing Center. They're still open, and I'm in meeting people. I don't know if they're doing it on Zoom or how they're doing it, but the Writing Center is still a resource for you. Footnotes. If you don't know how to insert a footnote, Google insert a footnote, whatever software you're using and on whatever kind of operating system you're using, and a friendly 8-year-old will have a video there for you talking you through it. Let the computer do it for you. I really, because the computer will automatically format it for you. Many of you have done this in high school, or you've already done it in college, but some of you have not. So be patient with me for a little bit. Here's what it looks like on a Mac, where you, on Word, you go to insert, footnote, etc. One of the things that's really puzzling to me is sometimes I get papers where it'll be footnote number 1, then footnote number 2, then footnote number 3, and then footnote number 1 again, and then number 3 again, and I can't figure out what's going on with the footnotes. So these footnotes, they just go sequentially, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, etc. through the paper. And your computer will do that for you automatically and match up the number in the footnote automatically. So just let it do it for you. All right, let me know if you have any questions. And I look forward to reading your papers that will be beautifully edited with none of these pet peeves in it. Great, wonderful. Talk to you later.